some more seconds.
Hello, good afternoon. Um, let's see. All right. Great. Good afternoon. My name is Jacopo Losso. I'm Director General of European Business Angels Network, and happy to walk you through a little bit the role of the angel investor and how to build up a ecosystem that involves this kind of venture capital investor. Just by show of hands, so I know who's in the audience, um, who's an entrepreneur or has a startup? Okay, one person. Okay. Who has heard the word business angel before and knows what it means? Okay, all right. So I guess I can skip a lot of that part. And who is an investor? Who's investing in startups? Okay. All right. And I'm guessing everyone else is related somehow, some way to the entrepreneurship world or technology. Well, this presentation is kind of intended for people that don't know who angel investors are, so apologies if I will bore you a little bit. First off, a couple of words about us. European Business Angels Network. It's a trade association that was born in 1999 in Brussels to spread and divulge the movement of angel investing across Europe. We are effectively a network that includes investor clubs. There's over 120 of them scattered in not just Europe, but also in other parts of the world, North, South America, Middle East, Africa, and other regions that look at Europe either as a market to invest in or as a market to bring their own startups to grow in. We are fundamentally a trade association representing this category of investors towards public stakeholders at both EU and national levels, but we're more importantly actually a network of investors. We do lots of interesting activities that include networking events, connecting people, enabling trust building that ultimately leads to investors sharing deal flow and investing together in startups. We also do lots of work when it comes to educating investors. We power numerous different activities that help people learn how to become a professional angel investor and especially avoid some of the common mistakes made when you're investing in a startup. And then last but not least, we support policy making and reform that ultimately encourages or helps startups and investors. I'll talk to you a little bit more about angels and how they invest in startups, why they're fundamental in a startup ecosystem, and how can we help accelerate their growth and development. First of all, an angel investor is fundamentally a private individual, a person that is investing not just their capital, but a lot more than that. We say that business angels are investing fundamentally also their knowledge, their know-how, coming from a past experience, either as an entrepreneur themselves or as a corporate or a professional in a given industry, and they bring that sector and market know-how to the service of the companies they invest in. Secondly, they're bringing also their network and their connections. These are people that can ultimately enable startups to do business and to scale up and grow quicker. And their networks obviously include also the networks of people they respectively know. So there's a huge contribution angels make with opening doors and helping entrepreneurs meet who they need to meet in a specific phase of their startup's journey. And obviously this is because angels are normally people that have, like I was saying, been there, done that history. This is where angel investors position themselves in the scene, in the ecosystem of venture capital investors. You can see they are fundamentally the first professional group of investors that a startup will meet in their growth journey. Usually angels are investing at a moment where there is fundamentally nobody else around that is accepting the risk reward trade-off. Hence, they typically invest in startups when they are very, very young, and typically before or just in the right timing before the product is selling or beginning to sell in the market. Obviously, this slide alone gives away a lot of the content of my speech, which is why angels are fundamental in any startup ecosystem. Obviously, without them, entrepreneurs wouldn't have many other actors to go to. There is, of course, a trend of venture capitalists coming earlier and earlier in a startup's journey, but still, that isn't an ecosystem that is so developed as the angel usually communities are in different cities and different countries around Europe. Let's see if I flip 2 slides too quick. Yeah, this is where angels typically invest. It's commonly known as the Valley of Death. That is when a startup is fundamentally not cash flow positive. It's burning a lot of revenue in the attempt to introduce a product in the market. That is where actually most of the startups don't make it out alive. Fundamentally, this slide talks to you about the difference between the angels and the other investors in the community and why they're able to accept so much risk. Obviously, angel investors investing their own money don't really need to report to anyone else but themselves on how those investments are going, whereas VCs typically manage other people's money and typically promise a good return on the investment that they will make on behalf of others. So there's a lot of different kind of dynamics that then come into play. Angel investors, for this reason, are also known as patient investors, meaning as they don't have a fixed investment window and a term for their fund to return results to their LPs, they can obviously be a little bit more patient and not push the company to any kind of early exit or early kind of sale of shares to get a return for their own investors. So it's a great investor to have along with you in the phase of your development where you need a lot more than just the funding. This slide talks to you a little bit about what angels look for in the investments they make. Obviously, they are investors and they're not philanthropists. They're hoping to also get their money somehow back with also some extra on top, and have a so-called exit, meaning a sale of their own shares to somebody else within hopefully 5 to 10 years. Average, I believe, is around 7, 8. Angel investors, as I was saying, are people that are not just putting in their capital in the company. They typically want some kind of an involvement, want to be part of the story. They usually invest also for that reason. They want to be helping out an entrepreneur they believe in, who's doing something in an industry that they know and can help out with some good strategic advice, connections, and other things. The angels, fundamentally, they're looking for people at that stage of a startup's life. There isn't much more than perhaps a prototype in some cases. So it's really the execution of the team that is really what angels look at. So they're looking for entrepreneurs that are resilient, that are determined, that are passionate about what they're doing, and that are fundamentally able to take their ideas from paper to reality. And they're obviously looking for other kind of characteristics in the investments they make, such as defensibility of the idea, if it's in a growing market, and many other considerations which are more, let's say, financial, economically related. But it is really much a lot about the team and the people, investing in the team, investing in those founders' dreams. This is the kind of help that the angel investors provide startups. This is based off of a study quantifying for an angel that has a portfolio above 20 companies, more or less how their day is spread out. This is measured, I believe, in the span of a month, how much time they dedicate to all of their, to each of their portfolio companies. You can see it is very much of a full-time effort when done actively and seriously. A lot of the time is spent on helping the entrepreneurs and guiding them. There is also a lot of other things that the angels provide their founders. You can see it there on the slide. There's many different topics. Probably one of the most interesting one is the connections, of course. These could be to corporates that could become clients of the company, or some other kind of a strategic partner that can help kind of unleash the growth of that startup. There's a lot of work nowadays also going into securing more funding, so helping the entrepreneurs keep their startup alive and find other investors. So that's really huge contribution that the angel makes to the entrepreneur so that they can keep kind of their mind more focused on the growing the business. I guess there's two ways of being an angel investor, as I was kind of alluding to earlier. You can be really active and be supportive of your startup, be hands-on, and you can invest obviously either directly as a personal individual or more commonly through clubs, networks that then form kind of pools of angels. We call them syndicates, and together they invest in startups. Usually these investors like to be very involved. They're the ones that like to open doors. They're the ones that like to mentor you, etc., etc. Obviously, as a person, you can eventually become spread out a bit too thin across your portfolio, or you may not have enough to bring to the startup in their kind of needs. So there's also more passive ways of being an angel investor. You can obviously invest through funds, become kind of a follower, following somebody's lead, or you can invest through platforms. But fundamentally, we like to talk more about the angels on the left side of the slide that are very much hands-on contributors of creation of value. Now, this last slide is mostly intended for policymakers, people that can actually do something in the ecosystem where angel communities are not so present. We like to suggest a mix of these activities, not one being mutually exclusive to the other, but it does have a lot to do with, first of all, inspiring and bringing the kind of awareness across communities. There are fundamentally thousands of people that could become angel investors because they have, on one hand, the wealth to do it, but on the other hand, also that value add to bring to the companies. They may not know about angel investing, but if you are engaging them in the right way and inspiring them to take this kind of a journey, it's a great way to activate people. So we recommend a lot of different activities that go from running events to running workshops and so on that can get relevant people active in the community. There's other kinds of levers that can be used to incentivize kind of growth of angel communities. Obviously, setting up angel groups and incentivizing or providing some kind of support for angels to structure themselves and become a little bit more organized is fundamental. Angel investors are, as I was saying, people. When you group more of them together, they invest more capital and more knowledge and more expertise. This has a much more powerful kind of role in the ecosystem. So angel investors, to some extent, need to be shepherded and kind of organized to make their most kind of contribution in the startup community they're based in. So there are many different ways to do this, but one of the big ways to do that is incentivizing the setting up of syndicates, meaning structures that investors can use to pull their capital together, and through that vehicle invest in startups. There's a lot of reasons for that which get very technical. It has to do with cap tables and so on, which we won't kind of dig into this on this presentation, but incentivizing the ease of setting up a syndicate, meaning a limited liability company that can pull investor money together, is a real big thing that governments can do. And obviously treating angels like VCs again invest other people's money, it's a bit of a mistake. So having them go through the same kind of a process is also a bit of a pain in the neck that is hindering and lowering, I would say, also many potential kind of activities angels could do. Governments can play a huge role also by setting up co-investment programs where they match angels one-to-one. Usually these programs have the power of accelerating both the creation of syndicates as well as getting more people involved, because you're doubling up your money basically. Every euro you invest is matched by the government. This allows you to make more investments or invest more capital in that same company and give it a real big push in the right direction. Governments can do this through different kind of agencies, and usually development banks are a great way to set up such co-investment programs. And we'd recommend, of course, countries to do so. I know Greece has actually moved already in that direction, which is I think a great kind of way to accelerate the movement and the amount of people that make deals across your ecosystem. And then finally, I take this last point, and I stress to founders, obviously, to know your investors well, meaning know the different kind of investors in the landscape and what they can give you and what they cannot. So educating startups early on and understanding why an angel investor in a specific phase of their life is fundamental, is important for them, is crucial. We recommend doing that, whether it be through incubators, accelerators, universities, science parks, wherever it is, but to educate the founders on appreciating why an angel for them in their early days is a lot more than they can imagine. So on that, if there aren't any questions or comments, happy to take them. Otherwise, thanks for listening in. Great. Okay. If there's no questions, then thank you guys.